Our universe rests on the uneasy border between two worlds. The world of man, ordinary and stable, and the world of games, imaginative and chaotic. Where these worlds collide, one man is called to stand for reason, maintain the balance, and destroy ignorance. He is the Game Overthinker!
Well, E3 was interesting this year, huh? Well, at least it looks like it was interesting. I didn't get to go. Big news is the Wii U, of course, which basically a much more powerful Wii that now has HD and dual thumbsticks, making it that much easier for third parties to port over the same games that come out on the other systems. In other news, the so-called hardcore gamer community was saddened by the news that they now need to find another reason to reflexively hate everything Nintendo comes up with. Also, new Sly Cooper. Also, is that the Tanuki suit? Holy motherfucking shit!
But in the midst of all those larger announcements, there came a smaller one that for me cast a shadow over the entire show, if not the entire industry. I have no problem saying that we may have reached a new low point for the Western games industry, superseding the original low point of Custer's Revenge. 505 Games, best known for the publication of, well, nothing really, have elected to produce a first-person shooter based on Blackwater. Black who? Well, let's refresh our memories.
Blackwater, though it's no longer called that, more on that in a moment, is a company that trains, equips, and provides private military contractors, or PMCs. Yeah, that stuff Metal Gear Solid 4 kept droning on about, pretty much that, sans the nano-whatevers. You may also be familiar with PMCs by their earlier, less politically correct name. Mercenaries. The game is being developed as a Kinect-enabled 360 title with the full cooperation of actual mercs for realism and the input and consent of Blackwater's infamous founder Eric Prince. Blackwater has been around since 1997, but most people didn't hear about them until they became prominent figures during the Iraq War. While many Blackwater PMCs served important roles providing security for U.S. forces and political diplomats, the company earned media attention for a series of extremely shady activities that, well, sounded a lot like more or less what you expect out of what are, again, more or less mercenaries. Now, there are more than enough places where you can look this information up, but suffice it to say that Blackwater's reputation isn't exactly sterling. They've been accused of killing innocent Iraqi civilians, firing on Iraqi security personnel, the use of reckless lethal force, and covering up the circumstances of their own contractors' deaths from their families. They have been accused by the United States and other governments of criminal activities including fraud, wrongful death, drug smuggling, weapons smuggling, and prostitution. In April of last year, 4 officials, including a former president, were indicted on federal weapons charges. Eric Prince, the guy who founded the company and is involved with the making of the game, so you know it'll be a fair and honest portrayal, got dragged in front of Congress to answer for this stuff in 2007, then resigned a few years later as the company changed its name to Z because of all the bad press. He's currently living in the United Arab Emirates, which has no extradition treaty with the United States, coincidentally, and is working to establish private armies for various Middle Eastern leaders. He's also a big money contributor to the Family Research Council, a political organization designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, even given all that, it's worth a disclaimer that the actual shape of the game has yet to be revealed, other than that it's a first-person shooter and you'll be playing as a Blackwater contractor fighting warlords in North Africa. But given that Eric Prince is taking time out of his considerable schedule to officially endorse and consult on the project, it can be safely assumed that its portrayal of the outfit is probably going to err on the positive side. You know, when the America's Army games first started to come out, a lot of people had a problem with it, and I can kind of see why. Using a game as more or less a recruitment and public relations tool is kind of shady sounding, with a whole mess of potential ethical and moral issues involved. But at the very least, it was recruiting for an actual national military that's subject to oversight and, at least in theory, does its fighting only for matters of national defense. Blackwater, or whatever they or any other PMC outfit wants to call themselves now, are guns for hire. You can spin it however you want. At the end of the day, that's what they do. So the proposed game is essentially a recruitment tool for mercenary work. I'm sorry, but that's just wrong. And yes, there is a difference between stuff like this and America's Army to a slightly different degree, and every other violent, morally questionable shooter. No matter how much you loved Army of Two, I assume someone must have, you can't actually go out and join transworld operations. It's not a simulation of murder or anything else, it's pure fantasy. This is something else entirely. Blackwater exists. The guy who founded it and is still on the board of directors helping to make the game, so it's entirely reasonable to call the proposed product at best public relations and at worst a commercial for a business best known for the commission of what some people would call war crimes. I don't know if there's even a suitable comparison for any of this. This is like if the actual Mafia consulted on one of the GTA games as a way to improve their image and woo new henchmen. I don't know that words exist to describe how disgusting and troubling this is. Yes, of course, it goes without saying that they've got a right to make the game, but can you imagine how bad this is going to make things for the rest of the industry? Assuming the whole thing doesn't just collapse by some act of karmic justice, you can basically kiss the cause of legitimizing this medium as an art form goodbye for another decade while we deal with the fallout. How the hell are we supposed to stand up to clowns like Lieberman and Thompson and their baseless claims of murder simulators when you've got someone making a game literally to promote something like Blackwater? Now, maybe this was inevitable. Gaming has always had anti-heroes, though it used to be there was an element of parody. Duke Nukem was based largely on guys like Ash Williams and Snake Plissken, who were parodies of the macho asshole action heroes that permeated popular culture at the time. They were fun, but we were also making fun of them. That aspect of the douchebag as hero concept has gotten murkier and murkier, maybe even to the point that making a game where you get to act out the careers of straight-up mercenaries is just the logical extension. If so, that's not really a great argument in our favor, folks.
You know, if gamers want themselves and their medium to be taken seriously, sometimes we need to do some work of our own. I'm not talking about self-censorship, never ever censorship, but think of it more like house cleaning. Games and gamers have enough problems without someone like Eric Prince making more of them for us. So, if you like, here's 505 Games' contact information. Why don't you give them a ring, respectfully, and let them know what you think about this game?
Alright, that was kind of super serious and a downer. Hopefully we won't have to get into anything like that again for a while. Here's some more Tanuki clips to cleanse the palate.
Yippee!